started this project, when I had the idea to do this documentary, there was a lot of uncertainties in my life, just like there's still uncertainties now, just different ones. And I knew that I had a lot to express orally. I am very fluent in written communication. I am very fluent in public communication as well, speaking orally, communicating, that works for me. But there was a time period where both were stunted. There was a time period where I couldn't write, I couldn't speak, and when you can't speak, you can't sing, you can't rap. And I was so over medicated. They had forced so much medication into my veins. They were giving me Invega Sustenna shots once a month that were exceptionally painful and humiliating and debilitating. And then they would also give me lithium. And I had visible side effects, visible ones, many. Particular ones that made it difficult to function and definitely impossible to work. But I still was applying for jobs anyways. I was still, as Elizabeth Gilbert says, showing up for my job every day as a writer, because even though I was never paid to be a writer at that point, and I had only been published on my own blogs or in the Montreal Gazette in an op-ed, even though I hadn't been paid a cent for my writing, I believed so much that I would be a writer, I knew it was my gift. Hi, my name is Arielle London, and I am a singer, rapper, writer, and political scientist from Montreal, Quebec. Those are the labels that I identify with most, and those are the labels that you will come to understand really motivate me.
Guys like a drug, I ain't ready to quit. Got my pussy so wet, it feel toxic as shit. He inside me, I'm Miss Jackson, I'm all nasty with it. Sex laced with sativa. Got me tripping off this bus so bad I can't explain. Will I fall back?
There's some other labels that I have acquired in my time on this earth, and that's from some psychiatrists. And those are PTSD and bipolar. So basically my educational background is political science. Before that, I did a DEC in health sciences at Dawson. And then for my undergraduate, I did political science with a double minor in social studies and medicine and education for art students at McGill. And then for my master's, I did a human rights degree at the UCL School of Public Policy.
I'm telling you, Ma, with men I really do have rules, but that day in BK, she should have made front page news.
A lot of people think that if you did well in school, you'll achieve a lot in life. And it's true, if you do well in school, certain doors can open for you. That's 100% true. But if you're not mentally there, or you're not mentally stable or secure or in a place psychologically that is sound, you really don't have that much to work with. And for a long time, I was in and out of reality. And that's kind of one of the hardest things to admit to publicly, because it affects how people look at you. What a lot of people don't understand about mental health issues is they're so diverse. With that being said, it just goes to show that everybody needs a different amount of attention and treatment for whatever's going on with them. One thing that's very hard to talk about in mental health is psychosis. it's hard to talk about, I guess because it's hard to admit to it, not because you are ashamed of it yourself, but it makes you vulnerable to have people know that you experienced that at some point in your life. The first time I heard the term post-traumatic growth, I was on the listening end of a Reclaim Your Voice event, and Jungle Flower was on the screen. I am sure that post-traumatic growth is as different to every person as their trauma is, but allow me to explain to you how I see post-traumatic growth through my lens. The moment I saw the term, I felt 1,000,000 tons lift off of my chest and shoulders. I physically felt the relief. The flip nature of the term stands in stark contrast to post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD. Post-traumatic growth is just as it sounds. It is the growth that takes place after the trauma. And this phase of healing and recovery is definitely not dwelled on in the mental health field as much as the diagnosis. This term is undeniably about healing and has a forward-looking vision, while a diagnosis can often almost feel like a hindrance or like an unjust life sentence of suffering and pain. I remember arriving in the emergency psych area of the French hospital that I was brought to in the Plateau area of Montreal. And this tall, white dude with brown hair took a liking to me. And he started talking to me and told me that he had just come from prison. And he said that where we were was worse and that he was scared. That didn't give me much solace for the journey that I had ahead. It definitely was a red flag for where I found myself to currently be. But I was mostly just very confused because the man in the ambulance told me the reason why the police and then the paramedics broke into my home was because there was a claim that I was suicidal on Facebook. And I was not suicidal. So I did not understand when the officer in the back of the ambulance told me that a call had been made saying that I was suicidal. I was very confused. So when I arrived, and upon 20 minutes of being in the hospital, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, I was very oppositional. I was very defensive. I felt discombobulated from the entire situation. I felt misread, misjudged, and I felt it was irresponsible of them to give me a diagnosis that was so heavy within 20 minutes of encountering me. And that diagnosis has followed me for 7 years. On May 15th, 2012, I entered into a mental health and human rights nightmare. That's the day that I literally got sucked down into a rabbit hole because I had no choice but to think everything over in life. So if someone taught me that up was up, I had to consider, well, maybe up is down for everything across the board. All of my trust bonds were broken that day. Betrayal became a word I was very familiar with, and that burned a lot. And I lost my mind. I lost control of my mind. Between the traumas of being institutionalized and the frequent and high dosage and different drugs they had me on at rapid speeds in between, you know, switching it up. At one point, it was switched up almost daily for like a good while. I remember one of the drugs I was on at that time because they had just been switching it up so much. But the diagnosis is just a label, and no one says that it is even accurate. Meanwhile, post-traumatic growth is a process, one of improvement, one of forward motion, and one that elicits images of hope. I am constantly learning how to forgive myself for decisions that were arguably out of my control, but still made by my being. But a large part of post-traumatic growth is learning to love yourself so much that you can forgive yourself for the things you did for reasons that you may not even yet fully comprehend. But as I suspect many of you in attendance may know, evil does exist. It exists within the system and the complexities of who individuals are and where their traumas lie. The most surprising thing that's good for mental health is knowing your rights. Because when you know your rights, you have a confidence. And when you have that confidence, you feel less insecure in certain situations because you know where the line is. Whereas when you don't know what your rights are in a given situation, you're a little bit iffy on how to behave and how to act, which affects your mind. So I would say definitely your rights. And also, you know, in terms of what's so surprising about it, I think that the fact that I, you know, learned what human rights were and I used those, you know, for instance, Article 19. I have a fascination with Article 19, and I think it's such a beautiful piece inside a declaration. I think that article is just so important because technically without that article you wouldn't even be able to write the declaration because it's 19, it's the right to expression. So freedom of expression is very important to me, and it's also very pivotal to healing. The expression is pivotal, crucial, essential to healing. The fact that I shared with the guy that I'm seeing after a year of involvement, I told him that my ex raped me. In 2010, I was raped by my professor. He was a co-lecturer for my class at McGill, and I developed a crush on him as my teacher. At the end of the semester, after classes were over, I gave him my number. We went out a couple times. Everything was normal. On the third date, when he had me naked in his bed after participating in sexual acts that I wanted to participate in, but not sexual intercourse, which I was exclusive and clear about by saying the words no, he raped me. And I continued to see him after that because I forgot that he raped me. I don't know if he gave me something that would make me forget, because it doesn't seem like the type of thing you would forget. I don't know if the trauma of it all and the shock of it all is the reason why I forgot, but for 3 years I forgot that he raped me. And I was seeing him for a good year and a half after the first time we had sex, which was rape. I know how it sounds. Awful, I mean, disturbed. I can't change that. I wish I could. I wish it wasn't real and true and a part of my story, but in 2013, when I remembered, I told myself I wouldn't forget again, and I wouldn't let myself do that.
The phone check, let me see if this is on for real. I got some shit to spit, to rip, to make you feel. I ain't a cage woman now, I'm coming off the rails. Right in front of the train, waiting for the engine to fail. One might say it's a bad look, but just look at my life. I got him lining up, looking just to call me wife. But one special fuck was looking to call me slave. That's why you rape me, you said, devil's mistress age.
So when I was at a place where I was at my lowest, I couldn't speak, I couldn't write, I pushed myself to do it. I bought a Van Gogh notebook and I just started writing. You know, I'd started with a word, and the next goal that I gave myself was a sentence, and then a page, and then a chapter, and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And I started a book. And I started a book in the process of doing that. It was called I and I. And in that book, I actually wrote down that I recalled the rape because I was working on I and I in October 2013. Yeah, October 2013. The rape took place in June of 2010, Grand Prix weekend. I believe it was the Sunday. I think it was June 6th. I know it's June 6th, but I'm pretty sure it was a Sunday. But it was Grand Prix weekend. Yes, because I had gone out with him on the Friday night. Saturday night, I met up with him after I was with my friends partying. And then Sunday morning, he raped me.
I know I'm looking forward, but my flashbacks press rewind. That shit was triggered by trauma, they ignore that every time. I flex on my opponent using en passant and rhyme. Si je bouge mon pièce comme ça, la reste vers certainement divine. That shit was triggered by trauma, they ignore that every time. They ignore that every time. They ignore that every time.
The bipolar diagnosis literally threw me into a hole, but also because of what accompanied it, which was institutionalization. And that's something that I haven't been able to say out loud for a really long time. The word psych ward, I say sometimes to family and friends in jokes just to make light of what I had to go through to get to a place where I'm balanced and also where my behavior is acceptable to society, because that's also what it comes down to a certain degree. And a bipolar diagnosis makes you question your own mind. Am I this? Am I one or two things? Because really, I didn't identify with it, and I knew a lot about the term prior to my diagnosis. PTSD I agreed with, and I still agree with, and I'm not gonna say conclusively at this point whether or not I agree with the bipolar diagnosis, because it doesn't matter. What matters is, do I take my medications? What matters is, am I getting physical exercise? What matters is, am I getting proper sleep? What matters is, am I eating properly? Am I going to therapy? These are the things that matter, not whether or not I agree with the exact term that doctors use to describe my mental condition.
You are watching the Homeless Chronicles. I am your host, Arielle London. So I have found myself homeless. My dog Penny and I are without shelter right now, and we are surviving, and we are doing everything that we can. I am doing everything that I can to secure both mine and her security and safety, and I want to share this journey because that's what I do with most things, and I don't really see why homelessness should be something to be ashamed of or anything like that, particularly, you know, for any individual, but given the things that I've been through, I at a certain point came to the conclusion that it would almost be inevitable that I would go through a period where I was actually homeless.
I think that putting myself on camera to actually walk the walk of telling you mentally what's going on as opposed to just using the hashtag mental health, which so many people do, which drives me crazy, because most of the conversation on mental health is saying we need to talk about mental health, or people saying, you know, I was this, or like I was suicidal, or I was you know, you'll rarely hear someone say like I was diagnosed schizophrenic, you know, because there's certain levels to what society accepts as okay. It's like, oh, so you're that, but you're not this. It's like, dude, like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the doctors say, you know, which term it is. It's like, if there's a problem, there's a problem. And with me, there was a very big transition that took place in my life when I became an artist. And I chose to share that publicly online.
Took red lipstick to the mirror, wrote for you to see it clearly. Year was 2012, 2012, 2012. Took red lipstick to the mirror, wrote for you to see it clearly. Year was 2012, 2012, 2012, 2012.
There was repercussions to that. So people basically misunderstood a lot of the stuff I put online, but I also knew that people might misunderstand some of the things. I mean, you hope that people are going to understand what you say, but sometimes, excuse my French, you don't give a fuck if people don't understand, because you just want to express yourself. And that is also the beautiful thing about Article 19 and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, is you have the right to freedom of expression. But what I've learned through being wrung out and dry by the mental health system is, okay, you might have freedom of expression, but treat it as a privilege, not a right. Now, that's not my quote. That's me telling you what I have learned about society, not what I necessarily believe. May 15th, 2012, 2 officers entered my home and they said, "Come with us." And I didn't hear them enter. Granted, I was blasting music very loudly, but they entered without a warrant, without any proof of suicidal ideation, without any previous evidence, without trying to talk to me, without explaining why they were there, without telling me where they were taking me. They literally just said, they didn't present any identification. They literally just said, "Come with us." They repeated it a few different times. And I said, "Come with us." I'm like, no, I'm not going anywhere. I know my rights. Like, you have no warrant. Like, what are you doing here? But they didn't explain. So I thought in my head, well, they're not following any sort of protocol. This probably isn't even a police officer. These probably are not real government officials, you know, coming to enforce the law or there for my protection or security. I didn't think they were real officers. So at that point, I'm in, you know, protection mode. I don't think they're here to help me. I think they're here to harm me. And so what I did was I ran to the computer to tweet for help, to just say what was happening, to give throw some eyes on my situation, see if someone could, you know, who cared enough would drive down. I don't know. I had a high viewership then compared to what I have now. And the next thing I knew, while I was on the computer, an axe came out. And they axed through my bedroom door. And when the axe came out, I jumped back. I was frightened. But then I was like, oh shit, they mean business. Whoever the fuck. Like, I'm thinking these people are here to kidnap me, right? I'm a human rights activist. You know, there's a lot of bad people out there. I'm thinking these people want to hurt me. Their sole purpose is to hurt me. So I go into fight mode. And then 2 officers, followed by 2 to 3 paramedics, definitely 2, maybe 3, come into my room and start making small talk and surrounding me and enclosing upon me, and then somebody encroached on me. They didn't even try and talk to me. They literally, like, I said, come with us, pulled out an axe, and then circled me like an animal that was prey by like a herd of coyotes. And then there was a fight, and the fight ended with me being subdued to the ground and strapped down to a board. And then I was brought down the stairs of my apartment, brought out to the street, and then I saw the ambulance and the crowd of people. A couple family members of mine, but I saw a crowd of neighbors, which was a weird sight. It felt like Pleasantville disrupted. And I saw the ambulance and the back of it open. And it was only when I saw the ambulance that I calmed down a little bit. Only a little did I calm down. But I calmed down a little bit because I was like, oh, at least these are real officers. They weren't lying. But that fight would have never taken place if they had presented their identification, if they had tried to speak with me, if they had identified why they were there. No, just come with us. Institutionalization fucks you up. Basically, it screws with all of your patterns, all of your habits, all of your social skills. It removes you from society, and it puts you into a place where everyone has specific needs, but none of them are getting met. Because if you're institutionalized, it's not holistic. I was just shedding tears watching a friend of mine cry on social media. Her video was just so beautiful, but it was so heartbreaking to see the pain that she had gone through. And I know that it makes people uncomfortable, but the thing is, some of us need to share our pain, and some of us have found a way to make that pain almost beautiful, or we finally figure out a way to make it palatable so we can deliver it to others and say, look, like, I'm passionate about talking about my pain, because literally if I won't talk about my pain, then my pain might suffocate me. And I'm passionate to talk about it because I know that you have pain too, even if it's about something completely different, even if you don't show it. Mic check 1, 2. DJ, turn it up. I can work with that. I just went to my fridge. And I opened my fridge and I saw the most beautiful sight. I saw food in there. Not only did I see food in there, but I saw food that I love in there.
You are now watching episode 2 of the Homeless Chronicles. I am your host, Ariel London. So today I still find myself homeless. Some people will see a woman who is identified as vulnerable and try and take advantage of that. And particularly, when they see an attractive woman, they think a lot of thoughts. And I'm not here to fulfill those desires or those fantasies of what you can do with a woman who is vulnerable. That's not my purpose. I have accumulated certain knowledge sets that I still plan on utilizing in my life. I have no intention of slowing down in terms of my career ambitions and my life ambitions. Looking at the footage hurts. I forgot, or not forgot, but some of that footage, related to homelessness. I was so on point. I was so wise. I was in such a good headspace when I was homeless. And I remember that.
about the experience. I remember being in a really good headspace. You know, not in the sense where I was like happy-go-lucky, but I was firmly planted, grounded.
At a certain point, all the hard work I've put in to getting to such a stable place where I can go through this and be a rock for both myself and my dog. I still believe in my future. Like, no one can put me into a hopeless situation and think that I'm not going to come out stronger on the other end, wiser and smarter. I'll tell you one way I did actually physically prepare for homelessness. I have a dog, as you know, Penny Lane, and she had a harness that was actually given to me by someone else years ago. I don't know where it was from, but the harness was very thin. So it occurred to me about, I don't know, sometime in the last few months that her harness might be hurting her. So I took it upon myself about a month and a half ago to buy her a new harness. I was actually pretty low on funds, but I bought her one that's, I would show you right now, but she's comfortable. It's thick. It's like this thick. The straps are that thick. So when I hold her and she's pulling, it doesn't cut into her, and it's more stable, I suppose. But I bought that actually at that time, despite the fact that I knew I might not be able to afford one in that moment, because I knew that the harness was more important for her right now. I knew that, you know, she needed to be comfortable right now. I knew that the pulling issue needed to be dealt with, and that's one way that I actually prepared for it, because I could see it being a possibility, and then it turned into a reality.
It was only once I was in the back of the ambulance on my way to the hospital that I then turned to the officer I had just been in combat with a minute prior. You know, where are you taking me? Because at that point it's like, what the is going on? And he said the hospital. He said that someone had called and said that I was suicidal, and they were taking me to the hospital. And then he just kept typing on his BlackBerry. Meanwhile, I was in a skirt and a bra.
Welcome to the third episode of the Homeless Chronicles. I am your host, Ariel London. So today I'm just going to talk about whatever I want to talk about, really. I'm chronicling the thoughts and the experience of someone who is homeless, and I'm speaking on the things that I'm comfortable speaking on. Sorry, I just got ran at by a wild beast in some people's eyes, but it's hilarious because when people first, when I approach a convenience store or a particular establishment that might give me an issue about bringing in a dog, there's always a conversation, and then after the conversation, there's the proof that she is so well behaved and she is so well trained and she is an exceptional being. I just want people to know that it's not okay to try and identify weakness or vulnerability in another person and exploit that. Something, I don't know who taught who at one point, and I don't care who did it, because that's not the point. The point is where we are. But I don't know who taught who that, power differentials and exploitation of them was a good idea, but it's not.
I sang as a child. I was one of the singers in the class, in the choir, in all that theater type stuff. I got the solos and I loved singing. So my parents agreed to let me take singing lessons, and I took 3, and then there was a recital. Like, it was at the end of the year, so there was 3 lessons left until the recital, and then the next year would begin the next school year. So I took those 3 lessons and I loved it. Anyways, long story short, I get up to do Whitney Houston at the recital, and I've rehearsed. I'm ready for this shit. Yo, I slayed that Whitney Houston. the energy in the room. I've never felt, I think it was in a church or something we had it. I was at the front. The energy in the room was just like, whoom. And then, because I was like 12 or 13 years old. And then, 13. I get off the stage and my stepdad told me that I was shit. And I stopped singing. I just straight up stopped singing. I only started singing again when I got a car at 16 because I would sing in the car as I drove. But I stopped singing. I'm having a flashback and I want to tell the story, but I'll take the clip from the Reclaim Your Voice speech. I don't know what the reason was. I have no idea what it was for because they gave me this treatment quite often, but one time they called the code white on me. A code white is called when a patient is out of control and needs to be restrained. They are supposed to use it as a last resort for emergency situations only, as it is quite violent and traumatizing. Instead, they use it liberally. Anywhere from 10 to 17 staff members, whoever's on hand and available, come and surround you to make sure that you are far too outnumbered to try and resist. So they called the code white on me and they strapped me down to my stomach by all fours, by my wrists and by my ankles, onto a hospital bed. And then they injected me in the buttocks with a mystery substance, and I would then proceed to pass out from anywhere from half an hour to hours at a time. When you wake up from a code white, you have to scream to get someone to come in and unchain you. And sometimes they leave you there screaming for quite some time. Well, in this particular code white, which was during the daytime, there was a nurse on duty that I didn't particularly like. And I remember being strapped down by all fours and my leg was exposed and she started rubbing it. And I was screaming for her to stop. And she just kept rubbing me and touching me until I passed out.
Move forward. What helps me move forward is my positive attitude and my ability to speak on what I've been through. There's a lot that I haven't mentioned. My ex-boyfriend hitting me in the back, leaving me with a spinal injury for 10 months, the details of my molestation, being sexually assaulted in a club by a stranger. My relationship with abuse runs deep, but abuse has a common thread. It's someone overexerting a power they mislead themselves to believe they have over you. We need to regain our power. We need to find that source within ourselves that pushes us along to become stronger and more resilient with time. Rape, molestation, systemic abuse, etc., all try and take our power. As soon as you recognize your incredible potential, that is when you have the opportunity to grow, and evolution is an integral part of our paths in this lifetime. The moment I reclaimed my voice was about a year ago after my ex-boyfriend was escorted out of my apartment by police. I knew I had lost too much of my time in different forms of institutionalization and in abusive relationships, and gained a focus on my life that has not been broken since. I decided to speak out at this event because I am tired of walking into a room and feeling as though I have a secret that may make people look at me differently. I need to gain ultimate comfort with my story. It will set me free. Today's theme is forgiveness. And while I work on trying to forgive my family, I will never forget. I will focus on forgiving myself for any and all decisions that led me down a path to be abused, even though it was not my fault. And in time, I will release myself of the anger I feel towards them for what they did. As survivors of abuse, we know that we often blame ourselves because we are the common denominators in our stories. But I do believe it runs much deeper than that. Thank you.
I'm not choosing for today and years ahead.
I think that one thing that's really hard for me and that's very isolating is being a rape survivor from date rape. And having had a relationship with the guy who did do that to me, it's very hard for me to sometimes reconcile certain feelings that, oh, he was a rapist, not, oh, that's the guy you were with for a while. And I began battling that who is he? Is he this or is he that situation 6 years ago? And now I'm at a different place with it, but I can't say that it doesn't hurt. I can't say that not being able to talk about it openly isn't difficult for me. And the thing is, people, they want to talk about mental health, but they don't want to talk about trauma. It's like, how do you have one without the other? It's not just genetics, it's your environment, it's your experience that triggers certain things. It's not, it's not just genes.
If you wanna be my plus one, you gotta ride hard for me, baby boy. I'm savage at home.
The hardest thing about intimacy is not making deep attachments, but deep connections. That is the hardest thing about intimacy. I actually just saw that in a meme on Instagram. It said, don't make deep attachments, make deep connections. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. When I say what is the hardest thing about intimacy, I immediately go in my mind to the rape. Because, for instance, I was just in a situationship for 2.5 years, and I just ended it a couple weeks ago. About to delete my ex-situationship partner. We just ended things for real, about 2 weeks ago. And I ended things, but like I did every other time. But I also made it really clear that I didn't want to boomerang back. And I did try and see him one last time, but I don't want to see him again. I care about him. I'll miss him sometimes. I'll reflect on him fondly in certain ways, but I couldn't trust him at all from the very beginning. And I had a hunch about him, and then I found out it was true, but then by then it was attached, and I had to disentangle myself from him. So here goes. I'm going to delete. 3, 2, 1. I deleted him. Oh my God. I deleted him off of my phone. And the hardest thing I found was because I had been in a relationship with a man who was sexually violent with me and accosted me in the bedroom and took away my right to decide. When I met a man who was so conscious of being kind in the bedroom and so conscious of being a non-selfish lover, that I overlooked a lot of things in the relationship part of our dynamic versus the sexual part, because the sexual part, he made me feel safe. So, I think that the hardest part about intimacy is taking that risk and feeling comfortable to take that risk in dating and getting to know someone new, that they won't hurt you and abuse you like people did in the past.
Breathe into my ascendance, boy, it's been too long. I can feel your heart against me, cause it beats here right or wrong. You can't escape me, and I feel the same. Wrap your loving arms around me, I'm addicted to our game.
Intimacy is another level of vulnerability, and when you've had somebody hurt you so badly, when you were just being vulnerable with them and trying to be intimate with them, when somebody hurts you at that level, you carry that with you for a long time. So the hardest thing about intimacy is definitely moving on. I felt like that was something I needed to tell him. We were having a conversation, and it felt organic to say it at that time. It had been on my mind a lot lately to share it with him because of the sexual nature of the assault, I felt that it was important to speak to my sexual partner about that. And it's not that I hid it from him. We have been moving at a pace, and we move at a pace that's fairly slow. And in certain ways, that's fine with me. And in certain ways, I definitely needed that at the beginning. And I appreciate that now. But I'm not sure if he realizes how big of a deal it was for me to actually say it. I was crying when I wrote it, but I got through the moment, and that's the bottom line.
Tell me what's more important, your possessions or your health? Cause in my life I've had to abandon all of my material wealth.
Everything.
Rebuild, reinvest, they gotta invest it in me. I worked so damn hard, not living life trying to be free.
I finally blocked and deleted the guy that somehow stole my chakras for the last 2.5 years and implanted a lot of doubt, a lot of seeds of doubt into my being that are just unacceptable in my fertile ground.
Then I question, is it you that I wanna hold so dear? Is it you I wanna call big and kiss every new year? Is it you I wanna see? Is it you that I chose? Or am I just attached to a connection that I already know?
But that was for my mental health, and which was also for my physical health. And I don't know if people realize just how interrelated mental health and physical health are. I really don't.
If it's any consolation, I felt safe in your arms. But this expiration date on what we're doing means X equals we depart. Hun, we really did good, but bottom line is I want art. I need flowers, affection, respect. I need I love you so I can do my part. I'm a lover, not a hater, but you've been my lover as of late. I know it's time for us to move on. I feel it in every chakra to date. I don't own any crystals, I got nothing to charge. Tonight I ponder who you are, tomorrow I'll ponder the stars.
Bye, babe.
I am a badass. I know I'm ready to basically confront as many of my demons as possible in a public format, because I also did that originally. This was originally done in a public format, and if you don't address certain things at the level they need to be addressed, then they might never get resolved.
Use my body as a toy, yeah, we'll see who pays. Write this shit on your wall, warning, rapist here lays. So the other women who enter will know the price of what it means to be with you. All wrongs, no right.
Everything comes back to identity and the love of self. And if you love yourself, you'll catch your thoughts. Because when that man raped you, he wanted to control your thoughts. He wanted to own your thoughts, and he wanted to own you.
Legally inclined to say that, boy, you ain't have it. Your style not slick, cause it's like not have it. Giving off vibes like you got bass clapping. I'm out this time, I'm at home just laughing.
It's midnight on June 6th, 2020. And it was this day 10 years ago that I was raped. And you know, 10 years ago at this time, I was actually with him, or maybe he was on his way to me, because I met up with him late. And sometime around 3 o'clock in the morning, we had our first kiss. And then he walked me home. carried me part of the way because my feet were killing me. And I went to bed thinking that I'd met someone great. And then the next morning I woke up and it was sunny out. And I was lying in bed and I was so innocent. And he invited me over and yeah, I thought we were going to fool around, but I didn't want to have sex. And that's my God-given right. To all you internet trolls who, over the years on articles, have said that it wasn't rape because I was consenting to sexual acts. But the fact is I didn't consent to sex itself. That's what makes it rape. It's my choice whether or not I want someone inside me. It's my choice whether or not I want to risk pregnancy. It's my choice whether or not I want to be intimate with you. And he stole that choice from me. I speak because I'm not the only one. And I speak because I know it can help other people. But I also speak because I will never forget again. Not for another fucking second what he did to me. The greatest key to my mental health recovery was acceptance of reality. I remember I was in the nursing station of the Violent Hospital, and there was a nurse there who I was close with. She was genuine. I stand by that to this day. She had a Maya Angelou aura to her, and she always brought a smile to my face and intended to do so, which smiling is practically illegal in a psych ward. So when I was passing through the nursing station, I must have been coming back early from either the library, a smoking break, or occupational therapy, one of those three. And I was walking back into the unit, but you have to go through the nursing station or you can go through the other door, but I don't know where the orderly was. Anyways, I ended up going through the nursing station. I knocked on the door and I went in. And it was just me and her. And we had this opportunity of probably about 2 minutes. And she knew it because she had worked there for decades and she knew what she was doing. She sat down next to me. She said she wanted to talk to me. And then she said something I hadn't heard, which was the truth. Everybody had been talking behind my back about the things I've been saying, the things I've been doing, the things I've been posting, everything related to me. They were just talking about me, talk about me. But no one was treating me like a human being in control of my body, in control of my mind, with authority over my mind, with, any say-so. So she sat down with me and leveled with me, woman to woman, human being to human being, and she said something about the alternative reality that I was believing to be true that involved people I didn't know, celebrities and public figures. And then she turned to me and she said, "But where are they? They're not here. They haven't been showing up." Where are they? And it was like I had been in a dark room with wires and like sparks flying, and she just went, and she literally just turned on a light, and all of a sudden I was in daylight, broad daylight, clear. I could see everything.
Hands on my waist like your home is so tight. Never felt this kind of love in my entire fucking life. Hips sway, lips move, yeah, the 2020 boo. I'm not choosing for today and the years ahead. Poppy come through.
So the greatest key to my mental health recovery was facing reality and deciding to come back. Wow. And I decided in that moment that regardless of how humiliating, regardless of how painful, regardless of how devastating it was to me that this reality wasn't real, I was going to come back to the reality that wasn't my favorite, but was real. Because it's in reality that you can build. It's in reality that you can thrive. In reality you can be happy. In reality you can live and survive, and you can have a life. And honestly, my life was dedicated to trying to figure out my freedom, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to get free. But this woman just treated me like a human being. So that was the greatest key to my mental health recovery, was being treated as a human being, but deciding to come back because of acceptance of reality.
I've been looking for you in their eyes. In the meantime, I've been looking for you in their eyes. In their eyes. Yeah. In the meantime, I've been looking for you in their eyes. In the meantime, I've been looking for you in their eyes. It's surreal. It's kind of like karma.
Your reality is your mental state, man. That's your greatest home. So I can't really call myself homeless now, can I? If my mind is intact and my home is right here. Peace.
But then I recall when I met you and no lying it, that shit was true. Then I look around at my life, where you at, who you ain't inside. So let him toss me over there, shit over here, even an armchair. But there's one thing, he ain't got boo, and that's my heart. Ain't got nothing to prove, to no one. After all been through shit, I owe you one. Maybe it's more like 2 or 3, won't fuck up now, but I'll give you me. Ariel London on the mic. From activist to experiment, my mind control is the detriment that you leaning on with every word. But this bitch, get out your words. Exchanging emails with Chomsky. See, I'm on his radar, no prophecy. I ain't gotta lie, I do the shit. See, I am that human rights bitch.
But you can wish that a sidewalk is pink all you want. The sidewalk is still gonna be the color of the concrete. You feel me? Like, reality is reality. You got to deal with reality. And in 2012, reality got so thick for me that I lost my ground. It's like I didn't lose my heart, I didn't lose my soul, but I lost my ground. And this whole other reality was created. And that reality was based off of people that I've never met. That's facts. I mean, no, sorry, let me rephrase that. That reality was based off of people that I know and people that I've never met as well. It wasn't just based off of other people that I did not know. Honestly, it's very hard to connect with a therapist, I find. I think it's, you have to know what you're looking for. You have to know their background, like, you know, what is their experience in? Like, their experience might be in trauma, or their experience might be in sexual abuse, or their experience might be in depression, anorexia. You know, there's so many different types of mental health issues that exist that I think it's well worth researching into the person that you're going to let into your mind, because the whole point of therapy is to be honest. And if you're not honest in therapy, then you don't get anywhere. And I found that when I was in, you know, when I was dealing more with psychiatry than psychology, I wasn't getting anywhere with the treatment because it wasn't dealing with my actual issues. And I think that trauma is very multifaceted. And I think that trauma has to be unpacked in a safe environment. And if you can't find that safe environment, you know, I would hold out until you can, because it's worth it. I give myself forgiveness for the things I have done that are out of my control, but made by my being. I just want people to know that you can get better. You know, your new situation, your healed situation may look different than your previous situation, and that's okay. The type of person that I was prior to all of this happening, she was great, but drowning. Completely drowning. Hashtag mental health to me, the documentary, is about bringing to people's attention that it's more than a hashtag. First of all, point one, mental health is physical health, period. You are a physical being. You are multiple things, but your mind, though enigmatic, definitely enigmatic in the field of medicine, your mind is the central operating system of your body, and it is a part of your body. So the way that it's treated, like hush hush, why would I be ashamed of my mind? I wanted to be known for my mind. That was a very specific wish of mine when I was younger. It was a recurring thought. I just wanted to be known for my mind, only because I felt like my mind was so beautiful and dope. The theory is called the child-centric framework. And basically what the theory stipulates is that public policymakers should place children's rights as a high priority in public policy making. You know, like, I really felt like my mind was the coolest part of me, because my mind offered, you know, so many different perspectives and such a openness that I didn't necessarily feel around me. And it admittedly, I believe it works in beautiful ways, just like I believe how many sociopaths on the planet? Everyone except them. So everyone except like the sociopaths, have beautifully designed minds, in my opinion. I don't find anything evil beautiful.
Basically, what the theory says is that it's based off of attachment theory in psychology, which says that your main relationship with your primary caregiver as a child is essential for the creation of positive relationships created throughout the rest of your life. It's also based off of ecological systems theory, which is Yuri Bronfenbrenner's theory, where he basically says that science needs public policy just as much as public policy needs science. The two need to work together. What happens at the macro policy level, as is said in ecological systems theory, is that there's these different systems, right? It kind of is, he compares it to a Russian doll. And there's all these different, there's the microsystem, which is the relationship at home and in the classroom, which is the most important. There's the next system up, which is the workforce and social gatherings. All of these places affect our psyche. It's where we live, essentially.
I'm passionate about a lot of things, but the common theme throughout my life that I've been most passionate about is human rights, and specifically children's rights, because children are to be seen but not heard. That's a quote that's like been passed down from generation to generation to generation that they think is acceptable.
I don't want to wake up in 2 years from now and feel like I didn't pursue my dreams hard enough. I mean, I work on my art almost every day. I work on either writing or art almost every single day. And I don't know if it's even enough.
Some people may not understand, but I am actually very at peace with where I'm at right now, and that's because I am who I am, regardless of what anyone says. I don't care what you label me with. You can call me whatever the fuck you want. When I put my head on the pillow at night, I got a smile on my face because I spent the day doing things that make me proud to be who I am. And there was a point where one of the doctors actually looked at me and he said, Ariel, your trajectory beforehand, before these hospitalizations, was like this. Now you're kind of like that. He was trying to tell me that my life was at a standstill, or that I wasn't gonna progress in my career, that my trajectory was now like this. And I just looked at the idiot and I thought to myself, like, I'm doing everything in my power to try and stay positive when you have me on these dumbass drugs. How dare you look at me and trying to instill more hopelessness into a depressive state? How dare you do that? Why not turn to me and say, Ariel, your trajectory was like this before. What are you doing to keep it that way? Or let's make sure you keep it that way. That wasn't what he said. What he said was my life was on a path going up and it's going down now.
You'll tell me something. If I was actually suicidal, if I was actually depressed naturally and not just from the drugs that they had over-medicated me on, wouldn't something like that potentially push me over the edge? So when that happened, in my brain, I thought 2 words: medical malpractice, period. Medical malpractice. There was a few times I thought medical malpractice. One was that, the pilot, the plane metaphor. Another one is when Dr. X told me not to tell him about my side effects when they were changing up my drugs almost daily and I was complaining about side effects. Like, they were bad, man, and he didn't want to hear about it. He literally told me, I don't want to hear about any side effects. So for years, I thought that I couldn't speak about my side effects. But then I released a song called Side Effects.
Take me in doses, who want the most is now you're feeling my type of doses. CP all over me, if you need is broken. Look at the turn and scream, he's choking. Nobody looking for pain, betrayal, the lies. I heard of a man, it's hard to describe. Feeling his touch, I can see it in his eyes. This is why like I am a hell of a ride. I'm wondering why mystery finds answering prayers, hopes and skies. Step like a lion, he stops as he stares. He's wondering why my soul don't bear. Taking my time, it's just sublime. I wish I was lying. Respect what is dying, revealed to each line. The source of my crime. Seemingly gone and say bye, he's online.
Basically, I sought to prove my theory. I started from a perspective that children, when they're more secure, are happier later on in life. You see, this is what it's all about, and this is what I'm all about. So this is what #mental health is all about. Most of us are just reliving our childhood trauma or our childhoods in different ways. We are replicating our past in different ways until we learn the lessons, right? And until we can break those types of patterns. Now, not everybody's into doing that type of work. It's heavy work. But some of us are, and some of us had to as a means of survival. Hi, my name is Ariel. So, you know, I've dove really deep into who I am, who I was, what I've been through as a child. And when my director of my human rights program, when my director asked me point blank, we were sitting in a room, his office, he asked me point blank, why children's rights? And I shit you not, I felt glued down to the chair and like the room was just spinning around us. I couldn't talk about it then. I still can't talk about it in certain ways. And I feel like the main thing holding me back from talking about it are the repercussions that come from talking about it. Because I'm not afraid to say that my stepfather is an evil fuck. I'm not afraid to make that accusation. I'm not afraid to say that he was definitely abusive 100% in a million different ways, almost in every way. But it's disturbing. It's very disturbing. And when I will say this, when I did start recalling memories from childhood, I sought help right away. Thank God I was in London during that time. And I was at UCL and they connected me with a counselor and I got help. He helped me. He really, really helped me. When I leave therapy, I think about it afterwards. I don't just leave and not experience anything after. I actually go through something emotionally after my sessions. I reflect on what my therapist said. I reflect on some of the things I say, because some of the things that I say are very insightful in therapy too. Because when you're having that conversation and you're talking about yourself, you are the authority in the room on yourself. No one else is. No one else knows your experience like you do, point blank. No one can argue that point. The thing that the therapist knows better in the room is the field of psychology. That person is an expert in their field. So what the whole point is to try and trust each other as experts on what you are experts on in that moment, in that interaction. You know your history. You may not particularly pick up on all of your patterns though. That is one thing that a good therapist should be able to do, is figure out your patterns. Just like you can get better from a physical ailment, just like you can get better and improve and heal a broken bone, just like you can do that, you can heal the mind. But this isn't about proving anything to anyone, which is what I was concerned at the beginning it was going to be about. But I knew that it was about expression. At the beginning, it was just about getting me to talk and to talk about my experiences and to complement the therapy that I was doing. But Now it's about showing you that healing is possible, learning to accept your new reality is possible, but still striving for the things that you want.
Murder, you're the devil after all, can't put nothing past you, lurker. So take your pitchfork and stab yourself in the eye, so you can no longer see your prey when you lurk at night. You know it's kinda ironic that you study mental wards. Ain't that another twist in this fucked up tale of yours?
I don't have to share my entire life story with you in order to illustrate that I go through a lot because of the mental health care's inability to get it right, to figure it out. Point blank, the mental health system is perverse, and it needs to be set up in a way that will actually help people with mental health issues, because the way it's set up right now, I'm sorry, but it's not helping anybody.
Shout out to my haters who be paying attention to my shit. Share that shit. But you block now, so you can't do shit.
What, you just couldn't wait? Had you gone so long without sex or a partner? What's wrong with you, son? It's men like you who give males a bad name, but I ain't gon' generalize, that'd be fucking insane.
I believe in the child-centric framework, CCF, with my whole heart, because I did the research and I know that I left no stone unturned, and I was aggressive with my research approach. I didn't stop. I did everything that I could to ensure that it was complete, and then I shared it online. It's available for free at ariellondon.com. Go check it out. If people only knew that the same way you do reps in the gym is the way you can do reps to build a strong mind, they'd be all about that hashtag mental health lifestyle. So it's not every day that you release a book, and it's definitely not every day that you receive your book published in print in the mail. This is a first for me. I have self-published books for free online before, but I've never actually put out a book for a monetary value and said, you have to buy my shit now. So here we go. This is Do You See You by Arielle London. This is the print version. Like over there, it says, Do You See You? It says over here. Oh no, where is it? Arielle London. Yeah, so this is my book. This is the back. This is the spine. See, Arielle London, Do You See You? Yeah, it's available on Amazon, so buy it and read it and share it and hit me back with what you think. Thanks. Much love. I started singing again at 24 when I lived in London. And I had just come back from a trip from Canada to England, back to England to study. And I got off this flight that was like, I can't even describe to you what happened in this flight, because it's a whole other story and it's not relevant. Well, actually, it's very relevant. I had a near-death experience on the flight, and I got back to my flat, and I dropped my suitcases, and I just started singing. I just, like, I remember it. Like, I just started singing from deep within my soul, Adele. And I just kept singing Adele.
And what? You know this wall, you know where we're living now. You think I'm Neo, bitch, I'm above that sound. I am so fucking far ahead, I'm living in another sphere. What you wanna know about something so clear? They be looking at me,
I don't think you should ever rush telling someone personal things about you. I think that they should find those things out over time. I think that when I was younger, I thought that getting to know someone meant telling them everything about you. You know, what's your resume, your life resume? What are the important turning points? What are your specifications? What are your goals? These are the things that I thought you needed to know right away. But I think over time, at least for me, I've learned that seeing someone's patterns, learning their patterns, seeing how they move, experiencing their vibe and their energy, and learning if they're compatible with your love language is important.
Today is a very proud day for me. It is the day that I finally made my very first t-shirt with my own art on it, which is something that I've wanted to do for years. Ever since I really got to a level with my painting that I felt like I could finally, sell and share it with the world. I've wanted to put it on t-shirts. I've just seen it on my work on t-shirts, and now it's finally coming to fruition with this very first t-shirt. So I'm so happy that I finally did it. I ran right before the store closed because I knew that if I didn't do it today, then it wouldn't get done like every other day before it. So yeah, I want to just send myself some props for having the courage to do something that was scary.
And that's why I create. That's why I speak. Because I know that getting it out is the most important thing. I know that other people hearing it is the most important thing because they're experiencing it, and that always breaks my heart. Today I was thinking about how fortunate I am to be in my new home, and how at one point I didn't have a home, and I was actually living on the streets in Toronto and in New York a little bit, and I ended up in a lot of very messed up situations, and I was thinking about just, how there are so many people going through that. I have to make sure that I acknowledge the human rights side of me, or else I'll drown.
Call me when you need me, you'll turn around, feel prophecy, press replay, listen to verse 1, pay attention to the bad line, son, that's my life, no bullshit. See, I always dodge the bullet, in the psych ward, a patient murdered too, and that's when they release me, boo. Do you understand why I'm divine, escaping death time after time, should be locked up from my beliefs, what you think this is, bitch, can't you see, that they fucking with me harder now, like I'm Tupac, Mandela style, made my ego huge, they tripping, yo, over one little bitch that's rapping, ho.
You only know someone after experiencing them, and that's really important to remember. In this world of social media, you think you know their vibe, what goes on in their lives, but people don't know. And even if you're screaming bloody murder, people still don't know because you're still decorating it in a polished way for the public.
What's next for my mental health is delving into the connection between mental health and physical health. Now, when I say that's what's next, that's what I've already been working on. So that's really, really what I'm trying to manifest into my life, is really positive, habits and positive things for my physical being. The trauma from the hospital is real, and it lasts so much longer than being there. Trauma lasts so much longer, and the rapist knows that. Talking about your mental health is not easy. It's definitely not easy. But it's worth it. Even if you have no one to talk to, even if you're speaking to a recording, even if you're speaking into thin air, in the middle of nowhere where no one can hear you, it counts.
I got Insurance policies, place, it's my philosophy, I'm always safe. I never played when it came to my mind. They dope me up, let me go online. They strapped me down, they left me drug reality flip, constantly unplugged. In truth, I just wanted to be unshackled from the hurt, but they show no love.
Right now, there are people in your local hospital, in a section of your local hospital, in a ward, a closed off ward, being monitored 24/7 and abused while they're monitored in the name of healing. Are you okay with that?
Anyways, I just hope that if you have a home and you have food on your table and got water running in your faucet and some love in your life, I just hope that you appreciate that, because people, as I've said in a recording before, people, when they see me smile, and if I'm holding a sign that identifies myself as homeless, or I look like I've been through it, or I don't know, they look at me with this confusion, this incredible confusion, that almost like, why is she so happy? Why can't I have that happiness? Or they look at my relationship with Penny and they think, damn, she's so lucky bitch, or something of that nature. But the bottom line is, I worked on this. I worked on putting her happiness and my happiness first.
I'm proud of myself. I'm really proud of myself. I'm proud that I've come this far. I'm proud that I take care of myself, that I prioritize my mental health, that I prioritize my physical health, that I take care of my mind, that I take care of my body, that I'm constantly looking to improve on all fronts. And I believe in my future. I believe in my future. You don't have to. But I do.
I'm a diplomatic, incidental, wanna take on viral. They said I was bipolar, but I wasn't suicidal. They said take the meds, but I knew that wasn't right. Started relapse cycle with no end in sight. They scrubbed my brain, call me crazy. Couldn't find work, they call me lazy. Couldn't get turned, my body betrayed me. Couldn't get hurt, no, call me baby. Tell me your opinion, do you know what you would've done? You can try to answer the question, but it's impossible if it's undone. I'm gonna escape from this place. I don't hide, I don't chase. Make you turn off your security, then dance like I'm in space. I'm a lie, I'm not fake. I put God, I hate. Make you beef up your security, cause you judge what you can't take. Take me to Paris, put me on a plane. Give me a love, give me a name. Send me to London, Portugal, Spain. Give me a tour, Europe and rain. Give me Capri, sunshine, no pain. Give me my favorites, give me the same. Give me the place that live inside my heart, like ocean on a hot day. How do I? They wanna know, they wanna know, they wanna know. How do I?
2 years ago, I sat on this mountain and wrote down the first line of this book. I guess the story starts on his windowsill. That may be where the story started, but it's definitely not where the story ends. Do You See You? Available in ebook and paperback on Amazon.com.
Hello, little girl. Hello, Miss Lane. Miss Penny Lane. Hi. Hi, who's a good girl?